This seems to have been caused by what was called the Boris wave, where we got to nearly 1 million people a year coming in, not on boats, but just legally applying, whether they were students or workers or whatever. And maybe that was a big mistake, Claudia.
Well, it's looking like it was a big mistake. And it's quite funny seeing the Tories blame this on Labour when actually Boris is behind a lot of the, these huge numbers and this wave of people that have come in. But I thought it was really interesting that you're comparing this Labour policy to reform, because I thought the exact same thing. Keir Starmer was labelling it racist.
It is racist.
Yesterday.
It is completely racist.
Let's talk about that, because
yet here they are presenting almost an identical system. And you're like, sorry, what? Who are you calling racist yesterday? It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, this is the weird thing about our politics, is that Labour's getting closer to reform, but they're also shouting more loudly at reform as they get closer.
Yeah.
So we'll ask if the Prime Minister was right to brand Nigel Farage's plan to cut down on legal migration racist. 0207 862 2222. Love your calls. Let's just crack on with it. Keir Starmer took aim yesterday at Reform's plan to axe indefinite leave to remain if they win the next election. Reform say that would mean stripping hundreds of thousands of non-citizens of their right to stay here, including those already in the country. Instead, they would have to keep reapplying for visas with tough requirements every 5 years. Starmer said that while he does not think Reform supporters are racist, the party's approach to legal migration is. And this is more from Keir Starmer's interview with the BBC's Laura Koonsberg.
It is one thing to say we're going to remove illegal migrants, people who have no right to be here. I'm up for that. It is a completely different thing to say we are going to reach in to people who are lawfully here and start removing them. They are our neighbours. They're people who work in our economy. They are part of who we are. It will rip this country apart. I do think it is a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is.
What do you think? You agree with him?
Yeah, completely agree. And I hope he stays on this track, because it needed calling out. And the problem with Starmer is he will say it and then he'll backtrack. But the fact is, this needed calling out. And I am sick of hearing people say, oh, it's offensive just because we vote reform. Nigel Farage was hugging Britain's most famous racist, Lucy Connolly, just weeks ago. And the fact is, his indefinite leave to remain policy is racist because it disproportionately affects black and brown communities in Britain who have been here decades, and by calling it foreign nationals, and they're not allowed this, they're not allowed that. Well, excuse me, Nigel Farage. As a child of immigrants, my parents were here, they paid their taxes, they were
But they came under different rules.
Yes, but then he's saying...
The world has changed.
No, but now he's saying that, actually, we're going to take all that away. You can come here, you're going to stay here, work for us, do everything for us, but we're going to tell you to go on, get lost now.
But here it's
and
clear.
that's only for black and brown, because it doesn't affect EU
is that what make it racist? Is it's only for black and brown?
Not at all. And I don't think...
Isn't it? Why? No, which bit of non-EU don't you understand?
I don't think
What about Australians?
Well, no, because we know it's we know it's about South Asian communities, because actually when you go back to the Boris wave, it was a lot of Indians that came in because we couldn't get in. Because of Brexit, we couldn't actually get
let Claudia answer.
It seems quite selective, I think, saying, oh, it's just black and brown communities. As you said, what
predominantly.
About Australians, Canadians,
don't bring
Americans?
In, now you're whitewashing, you're laundering racism by saying, oh, well, what about Australians?
Laundering racism.
You don't get Australia. We're talking about South Asian and black communities.
I think the racism tag is banded around as a way of really quickly shutting down an argument.
Good, it should be.
Because people go, I'm afraid of being labelled racist, I'm just going to not say anything.
I don't think people are afraid.
Let Claudia speak and come back to you.
It's not a good way to win an argument. And I think Starmer is alienating his voters even more by, labelling Reform voters racist. He's really not doing himself any favours.
He didn't actually say, again, misinformation. I'm getting really fed up with this. He didn't say Reform voters are racist. He probably should have, if you want the truth from me. Because actually, he was hugging Lucy Connolly just a few weeks ago. He's known for his racist policy. Yes, he was hugging Lucy Connolly on stage at the conference.
Most people probably not worked out who Lucy Connolly is.
They don't know who Lucy Connolly is.
Well, maybe when you mention her, they might
she's Britain's most famous racist. She's a convicted racist. Now, if you're going to sit there and say, well, I don't think Reform voters are racist...
Well, she went to prison for a tweet, yeah.
Right. So if you're going to sit there and say, well, not Reform voters aren't racist, actually, I think you are, because you're following Nigel Farage. Like, he's known for that. And the fact is, his policy is remigration and it affects black and brown people.
So there was a moment in the whole Trump-Clinton war of words in the 2016 election where she said Trump supporters are deplorable. And
Right,
she
yes.
basically lost the election that
Yeah.
moment. Because once you say you're racist for supporting Farage, which is essentially
No,
what you're
but
saying.
he's not going to lose. What's going to happen with Starmer is he's not going to, if he says that, he didn't actually say reform voters are racist, but he will, the risk is he's
pretty
going to
much
lose
did.
people like me. No, he's going to lose people like me because actually, unless he does call them that, I'm going to go to Green or I'm going to go to Liberal.
What do you think is the risk for Starmer here?
Isn't that kind of the whole problem with Starmer, is that he's not appealing to anybody. He's calling policies like this racist, so he's alienating anyone that wants to clamp down on migration and illegal migration.
You can clamp down on illegal migration, but not that.
But then to be labelling people like that, but then he's not doing it for either side. So his risk is what he is a specialist in, which is sitting on the fence and then appealing to nobody, absolutely nobody.
Well, he is at the Labour conference, as we can see here. There he is with his wife. And so he has to some extent, speak to that crowd. And they want to hear him be very, very rude about reform. So there's a little bit of internal party stuff going on here. But the question is whether it's actually going to damage Labour with the rest of us, because people might want to be cross about migration but not be labelled racist.
You see, this is you're going down that route as well, John, because what you're doing is, oh, well, we don't want to be, we can't be seen to be offensive, and Nigel Farage is going down that route. Well, he is going down that route because actually his indefinite leave to remain
policy...
policy...
you could be worried about migration without being racist, can't you?
But actually it backfired on him. There was a lot of people who actually thought, OK, reform. As soon as they heard that about people in our communities, 40, 50 years, who have contributed to our integral parts of our community, they got really put off reform.
Trump got elected. Trump got elected with the same stuff.
It won't happen
Got
yet.
elected.
That's
Okay.
what the difference between the British and...
The most dangerous thing you can do is to label a whole group.
He didn't label them.
This is why everyone was so shocked when Trump came in, because his voters got mocked. And everyone's like, oh, it's so ridiculous. It's never going to happen with Brexit. People, like Brexiteers, were mocked and ignored, and everyone thought, they're so, sneering at the voters.
And how well did Brexit work?
Well, it happened, didn't it?
Well, it didn't work.
People voted for it.
It's a massive regret.
People voted for it, and they won. And no one thought they would because they were mocking them.
Okay.
And the same thing's happening here.